it's such a broad topic. It's such an interesting topic as well in terms of that. And I go back to what we said at the start, which is that it's that getting that grip with the personal, the global, and the company security all in one go. I suppose, like obviously you've been in the industry for a long, long time, and you've built up teams and things like that. But do you think it's almost where it needs to be like a re-education of people and or a concept? I suppose it's a rolling education of people that um as they go forward in like setting up companies and moving forward, that actually they should be educated right from the beginning exactly what should be happening and the way it should be happening, and be flexible to that changing as they move forward, I suppose, as the communications change.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I think, obviously, as you understand, Kieran, in cybersecurity, the concept of a layered defense is really, really important, right? And a layered defense is not just about technology; it's about people and process as well. So you need to create awareness and train and educate your employees about how to look out for cyber threats, and how they should behave in ways that they can protect themselves. But then you got to have technology in place that really secures the business and your employees. And, I'll go back to one of the comments I made early in the conversation, that the human is always going to be the most vulnerable part of your security strategy. And again, the data backs this up. 82% of all breaches last year, according to the Verizon breach report, were the result of an attacker exploiting human vulnerability. Okay. And you just step back and you think about that a second. 82% of all breaches, the result of the exploitation of a human vulnerability, versus something like 4% of all breaches were the result of an infrastructure or application vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But like, the way we spend our money and our time as security practitioners is completely opposite of where the breaches are occurring. We spend the large majority of our time, the large majority of our resource, the large majority of our money trying to secure infrastructure and apps, right?
Absolutely.
But they represent a small percentage of where the breaches occur. And I've challenged CISOs and security professionals with this question of, well, if we know that the majority of breaches happen because of human vulnerability and exploitation versus application and infrastructure, why is it that we don't spend the majority of our money trying to secure humans? And the way you secure, and by the way, the answer I always get is, well, we know how to secure infrastructure and apps. We struggle with how to secure humans.
Yeah.
And they don't know that there's an answer. And I believe that the whole simple 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle, if you really want to enhance your security posture, you need to spend more time and effort securing humans. And that'll be through education, constant awareness, but really at the end of the day, understanding what are the tools that humans use to do their jobs. And the answer to that is communication channels, right? It's email for sure. Still, again, 55% of communication in business happens in email, but it's all of these other channels, and it's just a huge gap and vulnerability that most companies haven't caught up to and secured. And my message to the market and to security practitioners is, look, if you want to make the biggest impact in terms of improving your company's security, focus on securing the human. And the way you do that is to understand all of the ways that they're interacting and communicating, because that's the front lines. Like where employees are communicating is the front lines of where attackers are focused in executing their targets and compromising corporations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like I said before, it's such a complex issue, but it feels like that you're getting to the crux of it, and hopefully with continued like telling people and enabling people to see where the frailties are and how they can help and how they can work with the human beings and things like that to get it to a less vulnerable stage. I think the better. But no, I think it's been a really great conversation, Chris. I really thank you for joining us today, and No, it's really interesting. I think there's so much more to discuss as well.
Oh, absolutely. Kieran, I'll leave you with this. Two companies that everybody will be familiar with in the last few months, both fell victim to social engineering attacks that leveraged alternative communication channels. And you may have heard of this, but Uber, right?
Yeah.
The ride sharing company, and another organization called Take Two. And most folks may not be familiar with the company Take Two, but they are the producer, distributor, manufacturer of electronic games, and they own the Grand Theft Auto gaming franchise. It's a multi-billion-dollar a year business, Grand Theft Auto, and both of those companies in the past few months fell victim to social engineering attacks that started off in WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
And from there, the attacker was able to convince their target to take action that they should not have. The attacker was then able to move laterally, right? The point of entry was WhatsApp. They then moved laterally. Eventually, were able to get a foothold inside of the network, escalate privilege, and exfiltrate data. And it's the more examples that we have of companies falling victim to attacks in these channels, obviously, the more action that will be taken. But it's a very real problem. We're hearing more and more about these attacks that start in these alternative communication channels. You combine that with all the fines that the regulatory agencies are putting out there on organizations who are not monitoring these channels, and it's a recipe for creating the awareness that we need, and security professionals can use those high-profile attacks to get the funding and support to really put the solutions in place that are required to secure those channels and their employees.